If you have this pattern, do not hesitate to make it. Make it first. Even if you don't have any place to go, have the dress ready already. Hey, it's Terry, Virginia's daughter. I do hope that all is well, y'all. I got a good one today. This is the easiest advanced pattern you will ever make. Vogue 2066. It's a Badgley Mishka design that was released in 2024 and ranges in size from a 6 to 24. I think it was at the end of last year. Yeah, it was at the end of last year. I went to Joann Fabric if I could find a pattern to wear to an event in February, around Valentine's Day actually. I ended up wearing something else. Okay, but I wanted something simple, but elegant with a little red in it for Valentine's Day. And right away, when I saw this pattern, I was drawn in. The silhouette, the sleeves, the trim, just everything. I could tell there was a small train in the back, the hemline. I loved the way it's styled. I loved everything about it. When I picked up the pattern, I took a look at it in the fabric store, and then I flipped it on the back and it said advanced. That kind of surprised me a little bit. I was like, at first glance, it looks like it's kind of simple, actually quite simple. Even looking at the line drawings, it looks simple. But I was like, okay, I learned my lesson about first glances, right? They can be misleading. I talk about that in the last video I made.
But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time.
Or
you can go watch the whole video. Okay.
I'll link it above. And another thing that surprised me was that the sleeves are contrast. This looks like it's all the same fabric, but clearly the line drawings show that the sleeves are contrast. It's mentioned in the description, and it even gives you the yardage amounts that you would need, to contrast the sleeves. So I was like, no, this is quite interesting. Right there, I sit down in the fabric store. How many people do that? I sit right in one of them chairs. I pulled the sewing instructions out and I just skimmed them. Okay. And I'm like, nothing really sticks out at me. So I bought it. I was going to buy it anyway, no matter what. I think I got a couple other patterns too. I have to be honest. In my mind, I'm thinking it's advanced, it's advanced, it's advanced. And like I said, I only skimmed the instructions. So I'm thinking at any moment, boom, something's going to pop out. The advanced step, the advanced technique, the advanced construction method. And it never did. So then that got me to wondering, let me do some digging. I really need to know what constitutes an advanced sewing pattern. I want to know. So I thought it would be cool, not only to show you my dress, okay, love my dress, but to also share my findings with you and compare them to this pattern and then to see what your thoughts are, because we're all in this thing. We're all in this thing together. We gotta work it out. After I did a little digging, I went to the Simplicity website to see what they said about this pattern, about it being advanced and what that meant to them. So let's get it. What makes a sewing pattern advanced? This is what I found. Number one, this includes tailoring, couture techniques, draping, and boning. It's the intricate sewing methods that are involved here. Tailoring is all about fit. When you sew a pattern where tailoring techniques are involved, not only are there special stitching techniques, but you also got to know how to fit and modify the garment to fit you. Couture techniques, although it does share some techniques with tailoring, is about meticulous handwork, right? There's a definite distinction between design and detail. Design and detail. Design and detail. My last video talked all about design and detail. Draping is a technique where fabric is pinned directly onto the dress form to create a design, allowing the designer to explore and experiment with how the fabric is going to behave with the design, with the draping, and how it will fall and fit on the body. It's like freestyling, but you got to know how to do it. Draping is something that I've never done yet. It's kind of interesting to me, but I'm like, where would I find the time to fit that in? I don't know. But I could see trying it at least once. Boning is a technique that provides structural support. You have stiff rods, either made of metal or plastic, that are sewn directly into a bodice or a corset for fit. It's tucked to the body. I personally have never made a garment where I had to use boning. And I'm like, well, there's a first time for everything. Let me just add this to the list. What did I say I was going to do in the beginning? Draping. I'm keeping a list of things I have not done before in my sewing journey, my sewing experience. Next up is specialized skill. Skill is based on experience, right? You do something enough times, you get good at it. So a lot of these items in this category, a lot of the things in this category, we do quite a bit. Bound buttonholes, welt pockets, pleating, draping. So not even the type of draping really that I talked about earlier. You're not creating the design by draping. You're just using the skill of draping in the pattern. And then you have gussets and godets, princess seams, pleats, layered elements, detachable elements, ruffles, all of those kinds of embellishments that you need skill to apply. Linings, interfacings, underlinings, complex closures, exposed zippers, hidden zippers, lap zippers, covered buttons, hand sewn closures. The list just goes on and on and on. What about drafting, right? There are some patterns, advanced patterns, that you have to draft certain pieces, right? They're not included. Some of the Berta patterns that I have made, I had to draft a piece. I had to draft facing. When you work with fabrics that are difficult to work with, it adds an element of skill to the whole process. Sheer and delicate fabrics, like chiffon, organza, tulle, lace, the ones that require special handling before, during, and after construction. There are certain seam finishes that are required. Come to think of it, I've never made myself anything out of tulle fabric, but I have a pattern that I haven't used. So really, I could add that to my list. So let's see, is that 3 things now? Let's see, I said draping, boning, and tulle. Slippery and stretchy fabrics. When you're cutting it, it shifts. It's hard to mark it at times. It rolls a little bit at times. All of those fabrics, you have to know how to handle them to maintain their integrity. When I think about it, this could apply to like an easy pattern, right? You could have an easy pattern, a pattern that's rated easy or average, and depending on the fabric you use, it could take it up a level. Not to mention type of thread you use, needle, thread tension, stitch width, stitch length, the list goes on and on. Y'all, we're a bunch of professionals, okay? We all advanced up in this piece, okay? Is the rating of an advanced pattern, or any pattern for that matter, is it subjective? What y'all think? Now, what y'all think about this one? When I thought about it, I'm like, multiple pieces, right? So you can have a pattern with a lot of pieces. It does not necessarily mean it's advanced. It just means there's a lot of pieces. Now, the one thing you can be sure of, it's going to take you some time. That's how I see it. Detailed or sparse instructions. Again, instructions can be very detailed, but it doesn't mean they're difficult. It just means it's going to take you time to get through them, right? And chances are multiple pieces or a lot of pattern pieces and detailed instructions might go together. They might not always. Sparse instructions, on the other hand, assume that you know some stuff already. You got some experience or some prior knowledge, okay? And we do. We all do. If you sew one pattern, you got some experience and some prior knowledge. It might be small, but that's the thing about continuing the craft, continuing to sew, because the more you sew, the more knowledge and experience you bring to each pattern, right? And my personal opinion about that is all you really have to be is teachable, because if you come across something in some pattern instructions, some sewing instructions, some illustrations, whatever that you don't understand, you just look it up. In case you didn't know, I have a whole video on understanding sewing instructions. It's a toolkit to get yourself through sewing instructions. So really around here, we don't care if sewing instructions are detailed or sparse. We gonna get it. We gonna get it. Now, I talked about sparse instructions. What about no instructions? You all remember MARFY patterns? I say remember like they went somewhere. I still think you can purchase them. It used to be that you could purchase them through the VOGUE website. I don't think you can do that anymore, but they don't even have instructions in them. The pattern pieces are numbered and you put the numbers together. It's like a puzzle. I have one. I wish I had printed off the picture of the dress, and I know I did somewhere, but I just can't find it. But I know what the dress looks like in my head. I'm gonna add that to my list. So I'm at 4, right?
Draping, boning.
Oh shoot, I'm missing one. Draping, boning, sew something with tulle, and sew that one MARFY pattern that I have in my stash.
I'm glad I'm doing this video.
Because this done brought out some other things that I need to be thinking about. So yes. Let's apply my findings to this pattern. No tailoring, no boning, no draping, and no couture techniques in this pattern. So no. No complex construction techniques. The shoulder pads are stitched to the shoulder seam using a catch stitch. You have darts in the front of the bodice and the back of the skirt, and they refer to it as a flat dart. I don't know why it's particularly called a flat dart. It's just sewn like a regular dart. I'm not sure about that. Now, the dress is lined, it's fully lined, and one thing I will say is that I love the way this lining is attached. It could very well become my preferred method. So you attach the lining to this part of the dress first, and then you just attach it to the back along the back edge where the zipper is. So you enclose the zipper and then you just flip it over, and I love this method. I feel like it's the best way to attach a lining if you have a zipper in your garment. There's interfacings in the front band. The pattern does call for French seams. It's only, this long of a seam, right? There's a designer hem throughout, and the pattern actually calls for a hook and eye at the top of the zipper, but I didn't put one there. I really don't have the room for it. Was this fabric difficult to work with? No. The red fabric is a silky print that I got from Joann Fabrics like a long time ago, and I didn't have enough of this fabric, so that's why I resorted to the black and white fabric. And then this fabric is like a polyester crepe that I got from Joann's also. The fabric choices here are crepe back satin, slippery, wool crepe, and then for contrast, jacquard and mikado, M-I-K-A-D-O. What is that? I'm not sure. And taffeta. And then the lining is charmeuse, which is slippery crepe de chine lining fabric. Okay, so it could be worse, right? Depending on my fabric selection. There's only 9 pattern pieces here. And the instructions are clear. The illustrations are complimentary. Nothing, confusing or bogus about it. So there you have it. What do you think? It has a deep V neckline, which I shortened by about an inch or so. It has a raised waist seam, shoulder pads, which provides balance and structure. It has an invisible back zip. It also has a hook and eye. It has trim around the neck. I could not find a trim in my stash that complemented this fabric. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm gonna style this when I wear it. The way the collar stands, it's kind of difficult. I have to wear things on the outside of the collar, but I knew that I wanted beads, right? Because I could not find a type of trim that I thought complemented the fabric. It has these contrast statement sleeves. For the life of me, I could not see where the sleeves were contrast. I'm like, it looks like that's all the same fabric. There's a slight train in the back of the skirt. Speaking of the train, I made one mistake, which I think is a rookie mistake. First of all, the hem, it's a mermaid type hem, but it has a train in the back. I needed to make a length adjustment. For that type of adjustment, you need to do that before you cut the fabric, because it's going to be way more difficult to adjust that hem at the bottom. We've seen those lines on the pattern where you shorten it or you lengthen it in the pattern before you cut it. I think that my train is a little longer than it would be had I made that adjustment. You know what I'm saying? So you can only adjust so much. Speaking of adjustments, the only other thing that I had to do was add some width to the waist and the hip. I made the size 14, I do believe, yeah. I am keeping this pattern. I would love to make this again, solid black. If you have this pattern, do not hesitate to make it. Make it first, even if you don't have any place to go. Have the dress ready already. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope that all is well with you and yours. Create something fabulous every time you create something. And until next time, take care.